So we're going to hopefully go ahead now with the talk with David. Um, David's already mentioned that if there's any questions you want to ask as you go through, just you can either raise your hand and we'll ask the questions there and then, so we can keep it flowing if that's okay. Other than that, I'll pass over to David if that's okay.
Brilliant, thank you, Alan. I mean, hopefully it's all very self-explanatory. The whole point of the app itself is to make the use as user-friendly and intuitive as possible. But if there's something that I'm either showing and it doesn't work because technology fails or doesn't work out, then yeah, just let me know. We can kind of recap a little bit. I will. See, I'm going to share my screen and hopefully now, can everybody see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. So just to, I guess, start with a little bit of background to Savinavi. We launched the app about 3 years ago. The founder, I worked on the Clipper race for about 15 years and was based in just outside Portsmouth. And the founder of Savinavi actually took part in the race, and his background was in software development and worked for Google. And he was always really super frustrated at chart plotters and hardware on boats and how tricky it was and how it kind of marine technology didn't really move with the times. And now if you get into your car, you plug your phone in and everything's driven by your phone, and you can run your sat nav and you can get your way home, and it's very, very intuitive. So his goal was really to try and align marine technology a little bit more with that. So if you think about smart boats and sensors on boats and remotely managing your boat. So if you're in your house and you're about to set off down to your boat and your battery's flat, then you can get a message before you set off and things like that. So that's really the journey that we're on, is to bring marine technology a bit more up to date and to try and make it as easy as possible for people. So probably one of the first things you'll spot with the app actually is that it's very the charts are they've got a slightly different look to Admiralty charts or other charts that you might see, because it's aimed at the leisure boater. There are lots of things on a chart that can look very cluttered or intimidating, or there are things that you just don't need to see. There's something like 157 layers of data on a hydrographic office chart, and we show about 110 of them at the moment. So there are some things like submarine cables at the bottom of the Solent. They're that deep that you're never going to anchor there. It's not going to become a hazard to you. So we can take out things that mean that the image is cluttered. So you can zoom very easily. This demo is on a laptop, but the app will work on your phone. It'll work on an iPad. You can install the app and then use it on as many devices as you want to. So the idea being, you're at home, you plan your journey, and then you can take your smartphone and your tablet or your laptop down to your boat and actually go through the voyage itself. So when you first log into the app, you've got the menu appear on the top left-hand side, and probably one of the first things that you choose your boat setting. We launched motorboats about October last year, which was a new feature. Before that, the routing algorithm was designed for sailors. So I'll show you this in a few minutes, but as you're working out your route, it will actually tell you when you need to tack and jibe based on real-time wind and weather conditions. But we launched a motorboat version and changed the algorithm a little bit. So you choose the kind of boat you've got, you choose the size of your boat, your depth, your bridge clearance. You can choose when to turn on an engine. So if you don't have an engine, you can just leave this off completely. or you can set it so that if the wind is below a certain speed, then you can motor, and the algorithm will then, based on the speed that you set, it'll tell you when the conditions are such that you need to motor. If you're in powerboat mode, it'll work out your fuel efficiency. So it may tell you, for example, if I want to leave Newhaven tomorrow morning and go to the Solent, it might tell me that if instead of leaving at 9 o'clock, if I leave at 10 o'clock, I'm going to save 20% of my fuel and save some money. So the boat settings are in here. Offline charts. You can download a set of charts to use offline. That works at the moment on Android, and we're working on Apple, on iOS, and on the web app at the moment. But so that's currently just working on Android. The accounts, it just these are your account details, what you analytical data and things that you share. The other thing that you can see up here, we've got these four. Actually, what I'll do for a second, I'll just hide this. So down at the side here, obviously these, you've got your plus and minus that you can zoom, but you can use your mouse pad for that as well. If you click on here, it will always point you to the north. So if I've spun my if I spin my chart round and I want north facing top again, I can click there. In here.
Sorry, click where? Sorry, David, where are you clicking?
Can you see that on my, let me just get my screen a bit bigger. Can you see down the right hand side there? I don't know if you can see my mouse, can you?
Sorry, that's where I've got my gallery of nice looking people.
I had the same thing, and I'm afraid I had to shrink you all because I couldn't see my menu.
You can
now I can see. Okay.
You can drag your people menu across.
Yeah, so you can if I'm not going to press the top one because that takes me to my current location, so that'll ruin the entire demo. But with these two, you can zoom in and out. That resets you to north. On here, we've got our different chart settings. So our default is day. We can change it to satellite. So we've then got our satellite view. Or if we change it to night, probably the biggest thing that you start to see there, especially as you zoom in, you'll see the light flashing sequences on the buoys. So if my machine's not too slow and that's caught up now, you can see, as you zoom in, you can see all the flashing sequences. Obviously, you only need that on night mode. So again, to make sure that the charts are not too cluttered, when it's on day mode, we don't need to see that. Then our final two tabs that we've got down the side here, we have wind. So it's probably looks slightly more dramatic if the more I zoom out. So the wind is live. We have a global data source for our wind. And then we have tide as well. And again, it's there's a 4-day forecast on the tide. But if you're not plotting a route, say we decided we want to leave Newhaven, we're not worried about plotting a route. We just want to have a very quick view to see what the tide and the weather's doing. Then you can toggle these two buttons on and off, and just look at the environmental conditions. Then if we go back to this view on the top left, you can see there's weather, tide, routes, and track. The track I'm not going to click on because again, that'll take me back to my position. Based on the GPS that's in your phone or your tablet, that will center you in the middle of the screen. So if you set a particular course that you want to follow, and then you press track, it'll show you heading down there, show you if you're off course, and it'll show your real-time course and speed. The weather, if I just click on the weather button up here, and then this brings up my 4-day weather window. So I can now, if everybody can see that graph here, we can scroll through the next couple of days to figure out when actually do we want to sail. So you can see the wind conditions, the wind direction for the next few days. And then exactly the same with tide. So you click on tide, you click on any position on the chart. So it'll show you there the actual speed of tide in that particular place. And you can see the tidal diamond just at the edge of Newhaven there. It centers it and gets the data from the closest tidal diamond on the chart. And there are thousands of them around the UK. But again, here we can see low tide and high tide, the state of the tide, and as the, if we stop it here on Thursday at 2:30, then the tide's 1.2 knots and it's heading the other way. Is that all okay so far?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. So if we click on routes and we start to think about where we're actually going to go, what I'm going to try and do, if I can get this to work. So you just click on a point in the map, and as soon as you click on the chart, it will drop a pin. So obviously A is our start pin, so I'll start it right in the marina. I'm going to make life as hard as I can for our routing algorithm. So it's got to actually navigate us out to the open water. And then I'll zoom out a bit more, drag it across here. And if we want to go to just off Cowes, so you click and literally drop a second pin, and then you can see up here it's working out the distances. So it's 54 miles from the marina to Cowes. If I click on plot route, so now it's telling me that there's no route because of the wind or tide. So if I depart an hour later, it could actually be, let me just move this out a little bit. It could be that there's not enough water in the channel there. So I'll just drag that out a bit. Here we go. So it's 53.2 nautical miles. It's going to take us 8.5 hours based on the boat settings that I put in. So I said I had a 30-foot boat. I set my draft and this is the route and the time that it's given me.
Good luck, mate.
Pardon?
No, don't worry. Sorry.
Okay. And then all these points that you can see are the different legs of the journey. Now, if I scroll in here, one of the really smart things about the algorithm, and it's completely unique to Savvy, it actually works out your course to steer based on your tidal drift. So you can see your where the tide's pushing you. And even though I'm going here, my course to steer is going to be 292 because it's correcting it because of the tide. And if I want to preview, then it's going to take me through each step of the journey. And I won't do it all because of how long it's going to take us. And then there's quite a long leg there. I'll just wait for the memory on the laptop to catch up with the graphics. And it's telling us that we've got a near gale, it's 28 knots, we've got a foul tide. So actually what I'm probably going to do is decide not to leave at that time. And I'll change my plan. Because it doesn't sound like a very fun sail. So if I'm sailing to a deadline and I've got to go, this is what I'm going to have to deal with. And that's really as simple as it is, dropping pins. If we wanted to extend and say, okay, we want to head, zoom in a bit more, and then if we go to Lymington, if I click it again, I click on modify the route and then click again, it'll drop a third pin. and then plot the route. And it's now added an additional leg to take us from Cowes to Lymington. So from a route plotting point of view, it's a really simple, very, very intuitive tool to use. If you're using it on your phone, you just drop the pin instead of the mouse on your laptop. You're dropping it just with your finger. You press the screen, and it puts the pin in. If something goes wrong, then we can clear that route and just start again.
David, can I ask a question?
Yes, of course.
What does it do about the shipping lanes? So once you get down nearer Cowes, obviously you've got some quite important lanes. And when I do it on my chart plotter, I've got a kind of default where it shows me crossing them at a sensible point and then staying out of it. And then if when I'm actually sailing, I might decide to sail in the channel because there's nothing there. But if a ship comes, I don't have to suddenly say, where are the markers? I just default to my, does that make any adjustment for shipping lanes?
Yeah, absolutely. So let me, let's plot a route here. So if we start at Newhaven and we cross the channel, say we're coming in, we'll just drop another one here.
But we see down in the Solent, one you've just done, there are shipping lanes. I don't mean the cross channel ones. I mean the lanes when you get down near Cowes. There are lanes for the big ships.
Oh, sorry, you mean the kind of the small ship channels and the little ship channels?
Yes. Does it kind of ignore them and ride over the top of them?
It'll follow the routes in and out, but for here, for example, if say, let me change this. So say if we're going to go from Cowes into Hamble, it'll just see on the, here we go. So it's taking us along the buoys, but can you see it's kind of keeping us at the edges of that. So it's taking you through the channel, and then in here. And it's a similar thing. If you see ships, you kind of keep out of the way. But it's not avoiding the deep channel that the containers and things are going to go into.
Yeah. Okay.
But as you see here, it's taking you across it, not routing you through the middle. The basis of the algorithm is it avoids shallows, it avoids anything, avoids shallows, avoids obstructions. With the set shipping lanes, it crosses you at right angles. And
what about the ferry lanes? Because again, when you're down in the Solent, going into Portsmouth and coming out of Cowes, there is normally a purple line in your chart that shows you the normal route of the ferries, and therefore you can choose to avoid them.
Let me just clear this and zoom a bit. So we've got our recommended tracks. You've got all your no anchor areas. The ferry routes are not on here. And you can see where they go because it's, the white is the deepest area. So it shows you their channel. But because it's not dangerous from a depth or a chart point of view, it doesn't route you around that. It's using that depth of water as well.
Okay, thank you.
It's a good point. I can shipping channels.
I mean, it's quite important when you come into Portsmouth, because if you're going from Cowes to Portsmouth, when you come into Portsmouth, there's definitely a cut through that the ferries use, and it's marked on the chart. So therefore, to some extent to either to give way or to avoid it, because it's a pinch point.
Yeah, so you can see you've got your recommended tracks coming in. And depending on, the state of tide, you can cut right across here. I've done that before, going kind of across here on Solent and cutting across here, which is it's something you tend to do once you know it a little bit more, or you follow the slightly bigger boat in front of you.
But presumably, David, it would avoid things like crossing over the submarine barrier, would it? You'd hope.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anything that's a, I mean, let me clear this. So if we
I've used it myself, David. Sorry.
So if we start out here and head in,
yeah. What happens if you start at more like Mulberry Castle? It would come out past the submarine barrier before it headed in, would it?
Where's that start point?
Oh, the next channel there. Then just to the right of Portsmouth. No, you can.
Oh, in here.
Yeah, it was up there a bit. Yeah,
It's coming anywhere from
anywhere in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, presumably, it now routes beyond the barrier rather than going straight across.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Now, see,
No, it's going through it.
it's going through it there, isn't it?
Yes.
Because the actual legal or recommended gap is further in, I believe, isn't it? It's where that red and mark is.
Yeah.
So that's a big no-no what it's done there, because there's a submerged barrier there.
But the submerged barrier, based on the depth I put in,
right.
If I change my my draft on the boat,
okay.
Then it would alter the routing a little bit. So
okay.
so it's all based on the individual boat settings.
Right. Okay.
Is it also?
You're right. At that point there, it probably is deeper.
Hang on. Let me just see what happens. So if I just change that, and then yeah.
Okay.
So I've changed my depth, and it's now taking me all the way around.
Yeah. No, that's good.
Would if you put in the correct depth of boat, for example, say you're saying, I don't know, 1.5 meters, which is fairly typical.
Yeah.
That will it alter the route depending on the height of the tide when you arrive at the barrier? So at certain times you'll be okay to clear it, other times you won't.
Yeah. So it'll tell you a couple of things. It's basing this on the tidal height and the wind and obviously the wind strength and direction. So it may say on certain legs, I mean it's really blowing at the moment, so it's not that's not going to work. But it'll come up and say either you're head to wind or there's no wind, so there's a leg that you need to motor. But the algorithm based on the tide will change this route for you. So if there's not enough water, it's going to keep you further out based on the draft of your boat.
Right. And that route would be dynamic, would it? Because if you weren't making, for example, when you set off from New Haven, it might decide it's safe to go through the barrier.
Yeah.
But if you don't progress at that speed and you're behind, it will change the route, will it?
Yeah. So it'll, if you, this is kind of set what you need to do. If your timing changes, you can just modify and plot again.
Right.
And you can see from your, if you click on the track button that's there, if you click on there, you'll see how the kind of time you're making based on the route, and see exactly where you are along the line. So if you're off course, if you're on course, if you're you've changed your mind because this is your plan, but you've changed your plan a little bit, then you can just modify and reset.
Right.
Is there any form of AIS overlay or anything, David, or any ability to interface one of your own instruments? Say you've got an NMEA to Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Is there any ability to overlay the AIS from that?
So
not yet.
No, not at the moment. So our roadmap for this year, the things we're looking at for this year, AIS an AIS overlay. It's actually a fairly straightforward thing to for us to link into AIS data and then surface it within the app. Having
but is that based on land stations sort of thing rather than an AIS signal from your own boat? Do you see what I mean?
It'll pick up on the AIS signals from the other boats around you. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. So how's it doing that though?
But it'll if it's plugged into your own NMEA system, it can pull in data from your other instruments.
Okay, so it can pull in, yeah, as you say, an AIS feed from. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So that's one of the things we're looking at for this year is to hook it up to NMEA so you can get the AIS overlay. The other thing is sharing tracks. So say all of you guys are out in 3 months' time, and one of you plots this particular route. You can send it to each other. At the moment, there's no facility for saving routes, so I can't save this and then come back to it tomorrow and have a play around with it. Because it's so simple to do, I would just, if I wanted to do it, I would just kind of clear it, and then I'm literally just clicking in 2 places again. So we haven't done a route saving, but as a kind of a historical map of where you've been, we're going to add that, and also add route sharing. So you could send it to a group if you've got a flotilla. If you're racing and you set a race course, then you could send that course to everybody who's involved. Or as a flotilla, you could say, well, we're going out next weekend. This is the first leg. Then we're going to head up into Southampton. We'll maybe go up to Hamble. Then we're going off to Bewley. And you could work a weekend itinerary and share it around each other.
Are there any plans to link it with Ray Marine, for example, so that you could, because I thought originally you were going to show this as the route planning thing, and then when you get to the boat, you can magically upload it into your Ray Marine chart plotter so that you've got the chance of having all the functionality, or is that not on the horizon?
You can now. You can upload it to a chart plotter. Our thinking is in maybe 5 years, most boats won't have fixed hardware, and as chart plotters, boat hardware is quite expensive. You can upload this to a chart plotter, but is there a specific reason that you would want to, other than because you use it now? I mean, if you find out this is an easier way of doing it, we've made the functionality that you can, but we're not sure that people will always want to do that.
Is this relying on a 4G signal? So if you take the point Roger said, where you do the plan in the morning and you leave, supposing you were going from Yarmouth and you're going across to Cherbourg, so it's a kind of 10 or 12 hour sail. When you get mid-channel and you've lost your mobile signal, have you then lost your navigation? I mean, you've got what's saved, but if it's changed in real time, are you stuck till you're then waiting for a signal again?
So when you go to this download section to offline charts, that gives you it gives you your chart, so your chart data doesn't change, because that's the chart.
Yeah.
It gives you 4 days of weather and 4 days of tide, because this.
I mean,
it's going to show me. So I can see here. I can see the tides right through to Saturday, and I can see the wind and the weather right through to Saturday as well. So you've got that function at the moment to do that as an offline facility. But again,
so if you were traveling from Yarmouth to Cherbourg, let's say it's 12 hours, and you've got a course to steer, but then the wind changes and you're making very slow progress. So you know that you're going to have to change your course, otherwise you'll be, east or west of Cherbourg and fighting the tide. So when you're halfway across, what would you do at that point?
You can just replot your route because it's got 4 days. As long as you're not out there for
it's got the saved information.
Yeah, so as long as you're not out there for 5 days,
yeah,
then you're fine.
I think the point Sandy's trying to make here is where's it taking its GPS data from? But presumably it's taking your position
exactly
from however you are able to determine GPS on your local device. Now, some local devices have a built-in GPS and some don't, Sandy. So I'm guessing that the answer David is wanting or going to provide is that providing you've got a device with a built-in GPS, something like the iPads with, does it run on iOS? I hope it runs on iOS.
Yeah.
So if it runs on an iPad with the 4G SIM option, those ones have their own inbuilt GPS. So I'm guessing the answer David will provide is, providing you've got the inbuilt GPS, it will be completely current data.
Yeah,
right,
and it's the same with your phone. Your phone's got inbuilt GPS, and I think the other point is that again, technology is moving so fast that actually the amount of time we'll be offline will get smaller as well. So you know the rate of new satellites going up, and yes, at the moment you need your when you if you haven't downloaded the offline charts, then you need your phone signal to do this. But as soon as you've downloaded the offline charts at the moment, you can work out this route, and yeah, it's got you, and it's got the weather, and it's got the data, and it's got the data, it's got the GPS. But actually, they'll be within a few years, the mid-channel, you'll have signal. You can get really good boosters now for phone signals, so they work further offshore anyway. And the problem with using satellite at the moment to download all of this data, there's an awful lot of data to download. So you wouldn't want to download the data via satellite, but your position via satellite is really easy.
Yeah.
Can I ask, is there any plans to interface to give you radar overlays?
Radar isn't something that we've discussed or looked at. I mean, if you plug it into NMEA, you can potentially get data from any other data source on the boat. So if you have radar on the boat, then you could do that. We haven't specifically looked at radar as a specific issue.
No,
I guess
radar data doesn't go over NMEA. It's a pictorial thing.
Okay, I mean,
it's like transmitting a chart over NMEA. That doesn't happen.
Okay.
Well, you typically end up with, David, on a regular chart plotter if you're using a radar overlay, is you'll end up with purple blobs, typically purple anyway, where the targets might be found, might have appeared as yellow on your traditional radar view or whatever.
It verifies the ship against the AIS, etc.
Yes, yeah.
And also, is there plans to interface it with autopilot?
Autopilot we haven't looked at either, so that's another good one.
Because if you're doing a long passage, for me, autopilot is a must.
Yeah. Again, I think both radar and autopilot come into longer passages, because if it's, if you're going out for the day, if you are going to need your radar, you probably wouldn't go out. If you're doing a short, you're just going out for pleasure for a day. And autopilot the same. If you're doing longer passages, absolutely. So the initial development of the app was a pre-planner. So from your sofa, you figure out when to leave, what the weather's going to be, and now we've brought on, this was maybe a month ago, the Active Track, so the live GPS tracking. So the journey for the app is moving from a pre-planning before you leave the house through to using on the boat. So now we've got this aspect. The other things like, you know, linking it into Autopilot, linking it in with your other data sources, that's kind of next on our horizon. The other thing I mentioned at the beginning actually was things like boat sensors. Things like your bilge pump. So via the app, if your bilge pump keeps going off, you're at home, you know there's potentially an issue. Your app can tell you that. If your battery's running flat, if there's a problem with something on the boat, if there's hull impact, it can measure that. So we're talking to partners who've built that hardware now that we will then link into the app, so it will tell you all of that remote kind of smart boat data as well.
Another question is, what are the charts worldwide, or is the geographic? I mean, we do all our boating in the Baltic mostly, yeah, and Holland.
So we added Swedish charts a few weeks ago. So we don't yet have Denmark, but Sweden, Finland, Norway we do. So let's just zoom in here. Australia and New Zealand we added back end of last year. So when you subscribe to the app, you get global chart data. So it's not like some of the other apps out there where you buy charts for a particular area. With us, you subscribe to the world. So it covers the US, covers all of the Mediterranean, it covers the Baltics, it covers Australia, New Zealand, South America and Africa at the moment are probably the two gaps in coverage, but boating there is not huge. Caribbean coverage is probably about 80%. So some of the Caribbean is covered from the UK Hydrographic Office, some from US, from NOAA, and some from places like Holland and France. So a lot of the Caribbean we have as well. So if in the summer you're cruising around the Baltic and you want to plan your route here, then yeah, it just works in exactly the same way. Literally dropping pins and plotting your route. The weather and the tide data is global as well. So it covers you wherever you are.
Have you got Portugal now?
We don't have Portugal. So we've got pretty much everything in Europe apart from Portugal. The hydrographic officers, they changed their licensing system earlier on last year. And they're grouping together now from a cost and a facility point of view. So whereas in the past we've been able to go to individual countries to license their data, we now can't do that. You go through one central organization, it covers all of Europe. And Portugal is in the first batch to be released when that comes online. But at the moment, Portugal is a gap.
Well, you can't go at the moment because you'll be too worried about COVID. So that's
yeah,
fine.
And it's going to take you out of your 90 days, which from
yeah.
I think a Brexit point of view is a bit of an issue as well now, isn't it?
Indeed.
So yeah,
But do you, David? You were saying pretty much Portugal is the only bit you don't have. So you've got all the med.
Yeah.
I'm thinking myself here in the sort of Port St. Louis, the Rhone area. So all the med between sort of Italy and mainland Spain and the like. Yeah. That's well covered.
Yeah, it's all covered. So let me see if I can show you this. Actually, something I've not mentioned. So we have a partnership with a company called Navali, who are a French organization So
you do all the anchorage spots.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if you're, so where you see the anchors, if you click on these, it shows powered by Navily, shows you the anchor details, what kind of weather protection and what the bottom is like and what facilities are there.
Oh, so you've kind of integrated with
We've
Navily
integrated
data.
with Navily. So all of their marina data and an anchorage data. So if you want to go into the marina here, it gives you all of your contact details, what facilities they've got. It gives you customer reviews, so it kind of tells you what people think of that particular place. So we've surfaced all of Navily's marina data. So we've got a global coverage from Navily on moorings, anchorages, and marinas. There's a company in the US that we're starting to work with because they've got more data in the US, and then another organisation in Australia. But for the Med, Navily have pretty much got everything covered.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, so if you're in Monaco and you want to go around the coast, you can. It gives you all your marina details, and then we'll help you plot your route to get there.
Presumably, it interfaces to your bank balance and says, "Actually, you can't afford Monaco," does it?
Although Navily haven't quite gone this far yet, there's the company in the US. It's a full marina management system, so you can click into the marina and you can look at the particular berth. It'll tell you if there's a berth big enough for your boat, and then you can book it within the app.
Yeah, well, you can more or less do that on Navily. In fact, when I went down through the French canals, I did book my berth at the other end through Navily before I left.
Yeah, they haven't done that integration with us, but directly with them, in many cases, you can do that. Absolutely. Yeah.
David, I had another question. Sorry, I'm asking far too many questions.
No, that's fine.
You talked about, planning it on your sofa at home and then going off and firing up your device on the boat.
Yeah.
How does the sort of licensing work? What do you buy? Do you buy use on one device, multiple devices? How does that work?
Yeah, it's multiple devices. So we haven't put a limit on the number of devices. You get your login. And you can literally, you could use it on 10, 20. There's no limit on the number of devices that you can use it on at the moment. Power source is obviously a key thing. So if it's on your phone, and phones drain quite quickly when the screen's always on. So we're looking at things like for active tracking, your screen could turn off to save your battery, but it pings a message to you. If you're off track or if something's coming up that you need to be aware of, so you're not using the battery all the time, or you just plug it into a power source on the boat. We have started looking at things like smart watches. So although the screen size is very small, it could just ping you up with a message. So you can look at your watch and it will tell you to go back and look at your laptop or your tablet because something's changed.
You're going to be busy.
Well, the developers are going to be busy. I'm not technical and I don't do any of the development at all. Those guys are super busy. Yeah, we've got close to about 80,000 users now around the world. There's probably 20,000 in the UK. The US is a very big market, and then the Mediterranean. They're our biggest areas. Now we've got better coverage in the Baltics, and now we've got Australia and New Zealand. That kind of flattens out the seasonality curve because Northern Hemisphere, typically this time of year, people are not going out and going for day sails and things. So the waters are a bit quieter. But different parts of the world, they're busy. Florida, the southern states in the US and Australia is very busy now. And one of the other things within the app. Again, if you click on here within the app, you've got a chat. Excuse me. So if I've got an issue, and you can actually see the faces of all the guys here. So I can send a message to one of the Savvy Navi team, and then they can either reply in-app or email to tell me, you know, if I've got a question about some functionality, AIS, what's the timeline like, or you know, about a particular point on the chart, then I can send a live message within the app.
And David, where is the mapping stored? Is that stored locally on your device, or no? It's got to get there over 3G, 4G, or whatever. That's what you alluded to, wasn't it?
Yeah. So it's only stored on your device if you've clicked on offline charts and you've downloaded the chart.
Right.
So I'll try and show you, and it's probably not going to let me do this. So if I go, so here's one that I tried earlier on, but if I go to download a chart pack, and then I basically set, so it's telling me that it's going to cover the weather from the 9th to the 12th of February.
Yeah.
This is the chart area. So it's the area that I was zoomed in on before. Mm-hmm. And it's 12 megabytes is how much storage space it's going to take on my machine. And then I just click download, and then it's on my machine with the tide and with the weather.
Okay.
But if I'm not doing that, all of this is on our server.
Yeah. So any issues with your server or issues with the network in between my device and your server are going to unfortunately crystallize themselves if I haven't downloaded your mapping.
Yeah, I mean, in the last, I would never say never. In the last 3 years, we haven't had any outages with the server. So we've got multiple servers in multiple locations, yeah. And there was one phone company. Was it last year? One of the major UK companies had an issue at one point. But I mean, those things are so rare and getting less frequent. But yeah, so the all this global data is stored with us.
Yeah.
So David, I have a question. I've got the Savvy Navi app. Don't really remember when I did it. It was several months ago. But yeah. How do I get it on another device if I wanted it on my laptop or my desktop?
Yeah.
You said the one account covers multiple devices, but how do you actually make it happen?
Right. Let me see if I can.
You won't tell me in detail if it takes up too much of the meeting. Is it simple?
Really simple. So if you just go to the website.
Yes.
App Store or Google.
Right.
Or you can do it through the web app. So I use it mainly on I've got an iPhone and my laptop I use it on.
Yeah.
But once you've got your accounts on any other device, go to either the App Store or the Google Store, you download it and you log in with your account details, and
then
and everything's there.
Because you're already okay. Thank you.
Sorry, David. And on the PC, you just log in online, do you? Is that
yeah,
what you...
yeah. So I just log in here.
Okay.
I click login, and it takes me into the web app. Purely because it's a slightly bigger screen, so I use it more here. But and then I've got it on my phone as well. The other thing that important to mention for you guys, obviously, I've been working with Alan on this, and we've got a discount for all of your Yacht Club members. So there's a 20% discount for anybody that covers you for a year. And it shows you, this is in Krona because it's I'm in Denmark, and it changes the currency to wherever you are. But it shows you all the features for the different subscription levels. So all the different features of that particular subscription. And we've got a link that takes you straight through to this. That can be shared around. So you click on the link and it automatically takes your discount off.
Thank you.
What does that translate to in real money, approximately?
In real money. So it's about £35 for the essential, which minus 20%, so minus about £7.
£37.63.
All right, thanks, Mike.
There we go. And then the Elite is £65 before your discount.
So what did the Elite give us that the essential?
It gives you tidal streams, night mode, and satellite mode, and then everything else.
Yeah.
Can I just ask a quick question?
Sure.
Say if you were doing a trip and you're going to be sailing non-stop for 2 or 3 days, everything on that weather that 4-day weather forecast that you've put down, does it change? Should it, you know what the weather's like? It changes. It can change quite quickly. Does it pick that up, or is it on a set 4-day weather forecast?
So it's the forecast from when you first click. So if we kind of go to here now, this is what's happening in New York, right? This is New York right now, and we can see the weather for 4 days. Now, if I'm sailing and I'm along the coastline, every time I click, it updates and it gives you 4 days of updated live weather.
So it changes it constantly as long as you onto it. And
yeah, if I'm offshore and if I'm offshore for 5 days and I don't get any additional data and nowhere to pick up the data, then obviously this isn't going to update. But if I'm kind of coastal hopping, if I'm on the Solent and I'm going around the coast, literally every time I click on this, it updates it and it gives you a new forecast.
So you only update if you've got a signal to update it.
Yeah.
Right.
So if you're mid-Atlantic at the moment, it's not going to do it.
No. Right. Okay. I'm not doing the Atlantic, but I just.
Yeah. The only issue I've got is that if you're in an area where you don't get free phone data, then it could turn out quite expensive, couldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's probably one of the other Brexit things at the moment is roaming and free data. And I'm not sure what the companies are going to do. They were talking about scrapping roaming completely, but then also recently I read that they were thinking of not doing that and keeping roaming. But yeah, I mean, that's a great point. So typically, I would say while you've still got Wi-Fi coverage in the marina, do all your updates so it's not using data.
Yeah, I was thinking more like, say you go have a charter in the Caribbean, that could get quite expensive.
I would say it depends on how you're doing it. Again, if you're doing it on Wi-Fi before you leave the marina, most Caribbean trips you're kind of day sailing between islands. So you can get your updates normally from Wi-Fi, but yeah, absolutely, data can completely rack up if that's what you're using all the time.
Is there likely to be an increase in the 4-day download? Because 4 days is quite short.
Yeah, but the trouble is it becomes inaccurate, doesn't it? Stu?
Yeah, and
the charts don't become inaccurate, the tides don't become inaccurate, only the weather.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess our decision is around that accuracy. If it goes beyond 4 days, it's not necessarily a forecast. It's kind of what you expect, but there's less science in it. So if you had it on a 5th or a 6th day, you'd have the comfort of having something to look at, but it might not be the right thing. Whereas looking at in chunks of 4 days, it's a lot more predictable.
Yeah, I mean, even tides, Stu, are still only anticipated sort of tidal heights and the like, aren't they? You say they don't vary like the weather, and that's essentially true. But they're still only predictions. They're not actually guaranteed that what they predict is what you're going to get on the day.
Well, yeah, but what I'm saying is they'll only be predictions what the app gives you. The app won't give you live stuff. They won't be going to standard tide gauges and taking the data from there.
No.
It'll be tidal predictions.
Yes. Yeah.
So it is, but it takes it from these tidal points. So wherever we click on the chart, it takes you to your nearest tidal diamond. So it's giving you the data, it's giving you the real-time data from that local place, not an overall kind of model of what they expect the tide to be doing in that place.
But that tidal diamond is normally a prediction in itself.
Yes, but yeah.
From a standard port, it's not normally from a tide gauge that floats up and down with the sea and tells you what the actual tide height is.
No. I mean, so the tidal data comes from an organisation who manage these particular points and send the data from these points. Absolutely.
Yeah. Obviously, yeah. Right.
I mean, for my part, David, what would hold me back at the moment is the lack of the AIS overlay. It is what would keep me using the Navionics chart on iNavX, which is how I sail at the moment in the Med. But if you get a real-time AIS overlay and I can feed that via my NMEA to Wi-Fi with Peter on the boat onto Savvy Navi, then I can see that it's a no-brainer really. Your pricing model would be competitive. I would have all the data that I've got now, and the only thing I'd really need is to be able to jump on a plane and get to the boat without having to quarantine for 10 days when I come back.
It's a really interesting one with AIS. So Yelta is the guy who set up Savvy Navi. He bought a boat about maybe 6 months ago now. Now he's got a boat. AIS is absolutely the top of his mind. Before he had the boat, he's like, well, I'm not sure we need AIS because it's kind of more line of sight, and you can see what's around you. And do we really need to do it or not? As soon as he's got a boat, he's like, okay, we need GPS, we need AIS. So a lot of the new features now are based on him as a user and giving himself feedback.
To me, it seems to me that this would be an additional tool that would be useful.
Yeah. I mean, I think
often we're going along and we've plotted a route and we're going to keep in the deep water, and then we see yachts cutting across, cutting the corner off, and we're thinking, no, we'll play safe.
Yeah.
We'll do the we'll plan the trip and then do the trip as the plan.
Yeah.
But with something like that, it gives you a bit of confidence that you can cut the corner off.
Yeah, I think as I mentioned before, going into Portsmouth, I've seen it so many times. People coming along, kind of Leon Solent and cutting that corner, and in my head, I'm thinking you're not supposed to do that, but the boat in front of me is bigger than me. So as long as I stay far enough back that I can alter course if they suddenly stop. Then do you do it, or do you follow the proper channel? And I think it's also, a lot of it is about what you're comfortable with now and what you've used up to this point, because if something's kept you safe up to now, then that has your trust. So to use something like Savvy Navi in addition to run alongside it, and then it gradually takes over and becomes your kind of go-to navigation tool. I mean, I think from a simplicity point of view, there's probably nothing else out there that is as easy to use. So now it's just a case of us adding more and more features.
Yeah. To me, it would definitely need some sort of autopilot feed. That'd be it.
Yeah.
Really. And I've got to say, the radar overlay, I find that quite useful as well.
Okay, it's interestingly that they haven't come up before, and so it's great that you mention it, because it's now something that we can talk about internally.
Well, we're motorboaters, you see.
Yeah.
We're the only guy in the village as far as this club's concerned. So we do use that, and we also, because a modern plotter or multifunction device the radar's not just a radar.
Yeah.
It's a marker as well.
Yeah.
Marker means it'll avoid collisions. It's a collision avoidance tool, which is plotting the actual position of the other vessel and its speed and direction, and giving you graphic information on your chart as to where your safe areas are, where the big boat's not going to be in 20 minutes time.
Yeah.
I know that AIS does that, but not all ships carry AIS, I've got to say. And
absolutely, yeah.
And not all ships' AISs are set up correctly either.
Yeah,
I've seen them going backwards, for instance.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, and that's a good point. I mean, anything probably below 30 feet, a lot of them don't have AIS at all.
Trawlers in small fishing boats don't often.
I think your boss's observation about fog is an interesting one, because you're right. People don't necessarily leave if they know it's going to be foggy. But if you've crossed the channel, and you're in France and you're heading back to Guernsey, you can end up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon just going into fog.
Yeah, exactly.
And you, so the ability to use your radar and have that link to this would be good.
Yeah, yeah. I was just doing this because you mentioned being the only powerboater here, but from a sanity point of view, it's going to take us virtually, best part of a day to make this journey. It's only going to take you 2 hours and 9 minutes.
No, it's not. We get overtaken by yachts.
Oh, okay. Oh,
we cruise. Maximum cruise is 7 knots.
Oh, okay.
Doing 6.
I set the cruising speed to 25, not knowing what kind of boat, not knowing what kind of powerboat you were.
No.
We do a lot inland.
We do a lot inland as well, so
okay.
It would be useless having the big engines.
But you can see here, it also tells you how many litres of fuel you're going to use on your trip.
Yeah, I noticed that. It looked rather a lot.
Yeah, but if I change the cruising speed down a little bit.
I noticed you got 30 litres an hour there. What's that?
Oh, I'm not a powerboater, so I've got no idea what to set it to. So I just set it at. I just guessed at a number.
Somewhere between 6 and 11 at sea.
An hour, okay.
Yeah, but 6 knots is about 6 litres an hour, I think. No, probably a bit more.
Yeah. It's a good service.
Okay, let's see what this tells us.
About half of what we do, I know that.
Yeah.
I think we ought to buy a yacht and take the mast off.
This has been very interesting, David, so I appreciate it.
Yes.
Oh, you're very welcome. You're welcome. And it was, it's great getting the questions and feedback. And our development roadmap is completely based on the feedback we're getting from people about what they like, but actually what's really important to us is what we don't have yet. That's the really important stuff, because
another thing to bear in mind is that a lot of motorboaters tend to be a bit younger as well.
Yeah.
They tend to like their toys.
Yeah.
So Savvy Navy is the sort of thing that they might go to more than some of their yachties.
Yeah, and especially if it's smaller powerboats and smaller yachts, they don't have any hardware on board.
Absolutely.
They don't have chart plotters or radars or AIS or the boat I had in Chichester was 20 feet long and it had no electrics, no water, had nothing at all. So you literally, if you needed any information, you had to take it with you.
Yeah, so I think that's a big market, smaller boaters.
And do you know when you might be getting online for Portugal? Or is that not in the pipeline at all?
No, it's absolutely in the pipeline, and we're chasing it constantly because it's the one gap that we've got, and it just stands. If you're looking at Europe for us, it just stands out that's the bit that's missing. So we're absolutely working on it now, and I can feed back through to you guys via Alan as soon as we've got any hard news on that. It sounds like at least one person's definitely interested in Portugal. Is your boat there, or you want your boat to be there?
No, I've got a friend who's got a boat there, and I was telling him that I was going to be on this call, and he said, ask about Portugal because there's a big gap all around Portugal. And I said, yes, I will.
There is a big gap around Portugal. We're very aware. So yes, you can say we're working on it.
You said Denmark, the gap.
Yeah, it is, and it's a really. I mean, it's annoying because it's where I am. There's a gap around Denmark. The way the licensing works, the way we can give you global chart coverage is we pay every hydrographic office in the world when you become a user, regardless of the charts you're looking at, because you have the ability to look anywhere. So if you're in Chichester, we're paying NOAA in the US, and we're paying Sweden, and we're paying Australia a license fee for you as a user. And everything in Denmark is really expensive, including their hydrographic office data. And the number of boaters is quite small compared to Norway and Sweden and Finland. So it's purely been a financial decision for us because we have a set fee that we pay for the license, and then we pay for users as well. So we know we can get the data. We know it can go online very quickly. It's just a case of when we do it, actually.
And did you say that northern Germany, the Baltic coast in Germany, is included?
Yeah. So we have. Let's see if my. So all of the. So just zoom out again. You'll see there. There's that gap of Portugal, and we've got the coverage everywhere else. But yeah, the entire Baltic pretty much. Right. So all of the shaded area, you can see where there's data and coverage. Around Denmark, we haven't. But then as soon as you get up here to Norway, Sweden, and then further across, you're looking in here at the kind of the Baltic coastline in Germany?
Yeah, we keep our boat in Holland, but that's one of our cruising grounds around there. Rügen, Uzedom.
Yeah, where are you looking now?
Where are you looking now? That's called the Boddens, that area.
I'm just going to zoom in because yeah, so you can see we've got all the chart data. Yeah.
Yeah, that's Rostock. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Right, shall I stop sharing my screen before the memory on the computer will crash very soon, I think. So hopefully that was useful and interesting.
Very useful.
Very good. Thank you, David.
Yeah, thanks very much, David.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. And Alan, I guess you can share. If anybody has got any other questions, then by all means you can have my email address and come back to me with any questions or points or observations or suggestions. Or it'd be great to hear from you all.
Right.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you very much, David.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Cheers.
So I'll jump off and you can all do your social glasses of wine together now, maybe.
Thanks so much, David. Really appreciate it.
Cheers, David. And thank you for the discount link as well.
Oh, you're very welcome. Yeah, no problem at all.
Where is that link?
Guys,
on an email from publicity.
Okay, right, thanks.
Yeah, we can get that to you. Perfect. Lovely to meet you all. Have a nice evening.
Yeah.
Cheers, David. Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
All right, bye.
Bye.